The only thing more disgusting than feeling trapped with open chords is canned iced coffee. In theory, it should be better, but it's really just not. Unlike that, open chords can be moved around and kept open chords in a different way. That sentence didn't make a lot of sense, but it's going to sound like it makes sense after I show you what we're talking about. So we're going to take all the chords in the people's key, the key of G, and we're going to come up with alternate chord voicings all over the neck that are still going to utilize the cool things about the key of G, which are these big open strings that are going to help us out in different ways. But you're going to learn something, and we're going to do real-life examples practically where you can kind of sneak them into chord progressions and just take really basic chord progressions you probably already know, and then just add a little bit of life to it, unlike the life that is leaving my body every time I take that first sip of canned iced coffee. I still don't understand why it tastes so bad, but I keep buying it for some stupid reason. So let's come up with a basic chord progression using just some simple chords. Let's do like a D major to E minor to G major chord progression, all right? It's gonna sound like this with the regular D major, E minor, G minor chords that you know and love, right? D, E minor. Sounds great on this Martin D18 with Elixir strings. Those open strings are doing a lot of the work for us. Now let's do some alternative voicings of the same chords. So this is just the first example we're going to use, okay? Now, maybe you've seen some of these before, maybe you haven't. The first one we're going to do is we're going to take this D major chord, and then we're going to replace it with what I affectionately call the people's D, all right? Basically, it's the C/G chord, 2 frets higher, okay? So let's go to C/G real quick. We're going to get to C major in a second, but 3 on the E string with your ring finger, 3 on the A string with your pinky, 2 on the D string with your middle finger, open G, 1 B pointer finger, open E. So we're gonna take this and go 2 frets higher, okay? So now technically, it would be a D major chord with a G and E, which again, you can get into like, you know, the actual naming of that, but we're just gonna call this the people's D. So we're gonna replace D major triad with the people's D. And then from here to E minor, we're gonna go from here to here. Okay, the cool thing, E minor is a really cool one because essentially it's really just, you know, at its simplest, it's just a G, a B, and an E, which you can play with just open strings. But what we're gonna do is we're gonna keep that open E string, get the octave E, 7th fret on the A string, right? And then the minor third of that E, the 5th fret on the D string, which is a G, and then keep the same highest open strings. Also, some extra pro tips if you do it real dramatic like even if you hit that E by itself, there's something really exceedingly dramatic about that move. Take your time with it. And the cool thing is you can kind of keep the same form in your hand there. And even alternate variation of this would be have your pinky on the 7th fret of the G string. Kind of get that minor 7 sound. Again, either way, just drama. Okay, that's just D to E minor. Now we're gonna go to the G major chord. This is one of my favorite ones right here. Okay, so we've got the G on the A string, which is the 10th fret. It's major third, 9th fret on the D string. Pinky, 11th fret on the G string, which is the major 7. And then we still get that B, which is the major third, and then open E. So we're adding the 6th note and the G scale, and making it a G major 7, or not. Okay, G major 7 with the E on top. Or a G major triad, G major 6 with the E on top. And again, right there, that's a pretty cool sound that you can get that actually moves with a purpose, with a function, because you can kind of see how my hand is. I'm starting here, then here, So you can kind of use these interchangeably. And one thing that I found myself using these a lot was when I was playing live shows. If you have a chord progression that just loops a lot, it's like, all right, you know, what am I just doing here? Just playing the same thing. Maybe I can just replace one of these. I'm just gonna replace the G the second time around. D major. Maybe the second time I replace the E. A lot of stuff that you can do with it. So let's go through all the other chords in this key and just do examples of that. But make sure you get these first three down. And while you do that, let me tell you about the sponsor of today's video, Elixir strings. I'm telling you, these open chords sound so good with Elixir strings because they last so long. In fact, every set of strings has kind of like a sweet spot, right? Where, you know, maybe when you first put the strings on, it's like, okay, it definitely sounds crisper, brighter, but as you play into them, they just sound better. I think the sweet spot of Elixir strings just lasts forever. In fact, like, you know, with uncoded strings that I used to play way back in the day when I was a fool, the strings would go dead, and it's like, wow, why does my guitar sound so bad? Because I'm playing on dead strings. But even elixirs that you've had on your guitar for like months and months and months still have life into them, and then they sound great. So if you've never used Elixir strings, get yourself a set with the affiliate link in the description. And if you have used them and you're using them, then you don't need to know because those who know already know. So let's go through all the chords in this key. We're sticking in the key of G right now. So we have one example, just you know, a 5, 6, 1 in the key of G. But now let's do them all in order, right? So every key has 7 notes in it. G, A, B, C, D, E, F sharp, G. Any of those can become a chord, right? So really quick recap. All the chords in this key are going to be G major is the 1 chord, A minor 2 chord, B minor 3 chord, C major 4 chord, D major 5 chord, E minor 6 chord, F sharp, half diminished 7 chord, back to G. All right? So you already did a G major chord, this one right here. So let's go to the 2 chord, A minor. All right? I think a really cool one is to kind of take the same idea of that E minor chord, move it down a string. So now open A is your root note. So we have an open A, 7 on the D string, which is an octave A. And then it's minor 3rd, 5th fret. And then let's actually take your pinky on the 8th fret of the B string, which is a G, and keep that open E going. So it's like an A minor 7 actually. But a little higher up the neck as compared to, that's an A minor with a G on top. It's really the same thing, but with an E on top. And then again, you still do the drama. So, the 1 chord to the 2 chord. And then the 3 chord would be B minor, my favorite all-time one. And the cool thing about this particular voicing is we can keep your ring finger right there. Put your middle finger on the B on the E string 7th fret. And then B minor 11 with an open E on top still. So middle finger, 7 on the E string. We're just going to skip the A string. You can get it open if you want. But then I've got ring finger and pinky, 7D, 7G. Pointer finger, 5B. And then that's really getting, doubling down on that E, right? Huge fan of B minor 11 chords. If you've ever seen any of my videos before, you clearly know that I overuse B minor 11. In fact, you can't overuse them. They're the best. But it's cool because you can kind of see that, like right there, that's a 2 to a 3, right? A minor, 7. B minor, 11. Instead of A minor, B minor. And the great thing is, this B minor 11 chord voicing is actually easier to play than this bar chord voicing, in my opinion. Let me know what you think. So we've got 1, 2, 3. What are we gonna do for the 4 chord? What's the 4 chord again? C major, right? Again, let's do. This is gonna be the least open chord voicing, but I think it's one that just fits well and everybody should know. It's a major 7 chord voicing, obviously, because I'm teaching it. And I'm just pinching the bottom 4 strings, 5th fret, right? So, you know, if you see, is that your C major A string rooted bar chord, but let's get the B major 7 on top. Okay? One way you can always find this chord voicing is if you know the notes on the E string, the 8th fret is a C. This would be like a, you know, like a G major shape, but then just go back 1, and then there's a major 7 chord voicing where this is your root note. C major 7 as compared to C major 7 or C. Major 7 to C. Major 7 to C. And it's going to make more sense in context when you add it into chord progressions, which we're going to do after we go through the rest of the chords here. We already know what D is going to be, the people's key. We already know what E is going to be. Let's do that 7 chord, F sharp, minor 7 flat 5, half diminished if you're fancy. Which again, here's the, you know, what I consider like the traditional E string rooted voicing. 2 on the E string, skip the A string, 2, 2, D and G, 1 on the B string. Again, it's really just like an A minor, but with that F sharp in the bass. This one right here, I think is a much more utility-based minor 7 flat 5 chord. 9, 10, 9, 10, right in the middle of those 4 strings, right? And then that's going to lead you right back to G. Okay, so let's do all of them in order, and then let's do some chord progressions as an example, swapping them out and mixing and matching them with traditional chord voicings, right? So there's the 1 chord, G major 7, 2 chord, A minor 7, 3 chord, B minor 11, 4 chord, C major 7, 5 chord, people's G, 6 chord, E minor, 7 chord, F sharp half diminished, so those are all the chord voicings that we're going to do. Now let's start making cool chord progressions, right? One of the most common ones would be like a 1 5 6 4. There's a million songs in the world that are just a 1 5 6 4 over and over again. Maybe you'll even hear some of them in your head when we start doing this. But in the key of G, a 1 5 6 4 would be a G major, D major, E minor, C, G, D, E minor, C. So what should we replace first? How about that C? Did it out of order. G, D, 6, 4. See how that kind of adds a little bit of life to it? That, you know, 1, 5, 6, 4. 1, 5, 6, 4, 1. Okay? So, I always kind of gravitate more towards chord progressions that avoid the 1 chord because I'm edgy. That's why I'll even power through this terrible cold brew iced coffee in a can. What is it? Are there any scientists in there that can explain why iced coffee is great in person at a shop but tastes awful in a can? I'm so upset about that. Why did I buy that? But let's do a chord progression that doesn't use the 1 chord. All right. Let's do 6 5 4. Let's do 6 5 4 3. Let's just do this cool descending thing going on. So like a 6 5 4 3 with open chords, you'd be 6, 5, 4, 3. Swap it out. 6, open. 5. Let's just do the 3 as a B minor 11. 4. And that's the beautiful thing about B minor 11 that you just witnessed right there, right? We'll get back to it again. 4. 3. Anytime you have a minor chord, you turn it into a B minor 11, and then that opens up that minor pentatonic double stop land, which is so easy to double stop through. Check out my Patreon for more information about that kind of thing. But I think you kind of get the idea that really just learning all the chords in a key is super helpful for quickly making up your own songs or transposing existing songs and kind of memorizing them. And then you can actually start just swapping out those numbers, which may be with more interesting chord voicings using Elixir strings. Obviously, if you're classy and drinking a real iced coffee. Cold brew, not iced coffee. I need a lot of caffeine to keep this output of videos going. But yeah, just that swapping around, it just becomes a lot more fun, and I think your playing just gets more interesting once you can kind of hot swap some of these voicings out. So thanks for watching. Thank you to Elixir Strings. Check that out. Definitely rock the Martin D18 as always. If you have any questions or comments, hit me up in the comment section, Instagram, the website, and I'll talk to you all soon. Thanks.